Order at 2:02. We have no visitors, so there's no public comment. First thing on the agenda is approval of minutes from the March 16th Finance Committee meeting. I'll make a motion to approve. Okay,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
The next one is an introduction of, because I don't know Danielle Brown, I shouldn't be introducing her, but Director of Finance and Treasurer for the City of Franklin. Welcome.
Thank you. I
We-
guess I'm just here to
Well,
chime in and see.
we always
What's
kind of like to meet the new finance
Mhm,
director.
of course.
And I know Alan here has a background in accounting. You're a comptroller, right?
I was a controller for
Yeah.
35 years.
So he has.
So you're going to be my point of contact, I'm sure.
Everything. It's just a figurehead like I am. Okay. Review and discussion of the 2024 budget request timeline.
Back to business A. Did you want to talk to Danielle about some of the questions you had?
Oh, I didn't know if we were going to do that while going over the budget or what.
Yeah, let's do it there.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fine.
then, because it'll be more pleasant than the whole
Okay,
meeting and
keep
for
going.
longer.
Keep going. Keep going.
Okay. Review and discussion of the 2024 budget request timeline. Danielle, because you brought that.
I underlined a whole bunch of stuff that I thought was going to be
Okay.
important as far as what we needed to have done and when different things were going to be coming from different departments. So that was really helpful.
Yeah.
To know that.
I actually
Otherwise,
just
we would
did it
ask-
for-
Well, that's okay. We would be in a trustees meeting and we would ask Jennifer, is just like, well, when does it have to be done? Well, either it was, I don't know, or we're waiting for the city and this. So at least if we have something down here, if it changes, then we'll know. But at least we've got some targets.
Yeah.
Right. That were good.
Coming up soon, actually.
Yes.
So is there anything in particular you wanted to highlight to us? I mean, we read it, I thought it was,
Well, just that we have to have the operations and capital requests in by next Friday.
Yeah, operations I don't need until August 7th.
Okay.
But most of, the capital improvement plan, we're already getting going on that.
Yeah. For the most part, but there's some new stuff, and then there's stuff that did not make it in that I filled out
Yep.
improvement sheets for Peggy, and they were not included in that 5-year capital, so I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, and I brought the ones that I had found from Peggy, and maybe
Okay.
there's something missing if you wanted to look over these before
Yeah,
I go. Yep.
Yeah,
Or you can copy them.
or is it possibly just we're not approved?
it's possible they didn't make it on.
Because in reading through this, the
looks
mayor
like everything-
determines what
yeah.
he's gonna go with, and
So in the capital improvement plan, from what I noticed, it looks like I would hope, it looked like that they included everything on here. You would just know under the approved section if there was money actually allocated or not.
oh, so everything should have been out there, but it.
Everything should have been in the plan that was
Submitted.
submitted.
I guess there was just some IRS stuff that I didn't see in there, so maybe that.
And that's possible. And you know what? The fire department has also sent me an email regarding that. And I know that we just approved a contract with IRS for some of the roof repairs. So anything other than that, I'm not 100% sure on where Peggy would have put that.
Okay.
And I'm always worried when you hear a particular term used that means two different things. Because I'm reading through here, capital improvement, and it says, oh, well, this just is primarily for Director of Public Works, parks, and things like that. So it's like, okay, so when we're talking about capital improvements, what exactly are we saying?
But like you're the capital, for public works, that's Fund 46, and we have nothing to do with the Fund 46.
Right. So my question is, what capital improvement are we talking about?
Well, they always had me put in pretty much computers, library materials,
Yeah.
That's-
furniture.
So if you want to talk about capital outlay,
It's
Yeah,
capital.
that's the way we've got it noted in the budget itself.
So those are the kinds of things that I put requests in
Right.
for.
Okay.
So it's any capital related requests.
Okay.
Okay, so so we've got capital, anything with personnel? Is there anything with personnel that was going to be different for 2024?
I'm just waiting for Tom to send me the list of personnel.
Yeah,
And I look over it to make sure it's all accurate and reflects what we have here. Because that's where he gets his numbers from.
I know that there has been some movement around of folks this year and some things where, are we filling all the positions that we had, let's say, at the beginning of 2023? In 2024, staffing is going to, from a number and a position standpoint, it's going to look exactly like it is for 2020.
We experimented a little bit with that in 2022. It was not a success. So 2023 found us filling all the positions
Okay.
that we have allocated to us. And that's where I,
About not having enough.
right. So we are personnel wise, we're right where, right now, we're right where.
with no
we should
anticipated
be.
changes.
No
for 24.
anticipated changes. Although I always send an email out around this time of year saying, if you know of any, I let staff know they're not under any obligation to tell me, but if they know that they're going to have some kind of change in status in the coming year, if they don't mind letting me know so I could plan.
Yeah.
And, of course, it still seems like I get letters of resignation or retirement
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't anticipate.
Well, and sometimes
They may
there's
not.
like change things where now all of a sudden that decision that I made last year is different because of some other
Correct.
things that I have to do. Right.
And I only know of one retirement coming up in January. I don't know how it would impact you, but Bob, yeah, that's the only one that I know of. So
It may impact our allocated, which I don't put
Maintenance.
those numbers in, the
Yeah.
city puts those in. Because, I'm guessing
Hey, Stan.
that Bob's replacement would probably make a little less than he does, but it would not be a significant amount.
Or in these times, to get somebody, you may have to pay a little more.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Okay. So any other thoughts on that?
I think the September 19th date, I will let the board know about that. Because that might be a day where we want to have some people at the common council meeting as the budget's presented.
Mhm.
What's the date again?
September 19th.
Okay.
Have a lot of work ahead of me in the next week.
Then discussion of the budget projection, including capital and operating expenses. Now, this is where my questions start creeping in, because we're talking about capital. What are we responsible for? We've never heard any delineation that says you're responsible for this if this. For example, my thoughts would be anything within the four walls and under the roof is our baby. Other than that, should be the city of Franklin. And that's why they're doing the parking lot, et cetera.
correct.
And the air chiller that will be needing
Hey,
to be
Carrie.
replaced. The air chiller that will be needing to be replaced probably next year.
And so the parking lot and the air chiller are two things that the city's taking care of. Yes?
Peggy, that was my understanding from Peggy, that, things like the chairs, like replacement of the chairs inside the building
Yeah,
would
yeah.
not be city, but
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, that's your understanding.
Understanding.
We don't have this is what it is. That somebody somewhere has written it up and so we know. When we're
That's something I could look into. That would have been my assumption, but to actually get an answer for that, I can.
yeah,
And this capital improvements spreadsheet that we've got here,
right.
I got circled parking lot asphalt and parking lot concrete as being, okay, then those should come out. There shouldn't be anything that we have to deal with.
I agree. And now we get into things like the lockers that we added that are outside of the building. See, I would take exception with that and say that's our responsibility.
Mhm.
It
We
is.
added that. Then you take the patio. which is outside of the building. But it's kind of expensive. It keeps sinking. We have issues with it. Um, Again, is this something that was added because the library wanted it, or was it there
Yeah. So
originally?
you see, there never really was much of a conversation
Yeah.
on the topic between here and and the city, where we would then get an answer to say, oh, okay. Or
Right.
even if it's say, well, how should that work? And then you sit down and you say, okay, this is how it's going to be funded.
Yeah, because I can see that the parking lot was put in the budget. I don't know who.
City
Okay.
did, both the parking lot asphalt and the concrete were both covered by the city.
And what about the chiller that you were saying? Is that just building repairs?
Chiller is next year, will need to be replaced. We have oil in the coolant, which is indicating that we are at the end of the useful life of the air chiller. I have an email from Bob. He's been going back and forth with Keith
Okay.
from IRS
Yep.
about the mud jacking and the AC issues. So basically he's saying it's air chillers next year. And there's an order time, a lead time of 9 to 12 months. So he's just saying
Okay.
it needs to get to.
And again, those are the kinds of things that we're questioning. How do we look at it? Because there's no line in the sand that this is it.
Well, and if that's something that you're looking for, then I'll make sure to get that answer.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Mhm.
And we're into the budget projection.
Did you want me to address, remember our last meeting, we talked about some of those, you have those highlighted?
Yeah,
Things
because
that you noted?
it didn't seem to make sense that they would have gone down,
Yeah,
4.9% from the prior year. And I just didn't know why. So I just highlighted it in case we had something that was funny.
I'm not sure about the personnel cost because I don't calculate any of those, although it could just be simply because we have newer employees who are being paid at a lower rate.
And in the two benefits area, dental and health, somebody went from
Somebody went-
family to single.
Actually, single to Medicare.
Oh, yeah.
So that,
So they're
I'm
off
sure
the-
that's where it was.
Okay.
Can we use the numbers that we had, the percentage increases across those types of things, and treat it like inflation? A note I've got for myself is who controls this? Let's say 2 years from now, and all of a sudden the city decides that they're going to be doing something different, right? Where now costs would change. I mean, is the goal here that we kind of have an idea of rule of thumb? This is what we can expect for, I'll call them benefit, non-salary costs to change as far as insurance premiums, who's paying for what and stuff like that, because we just took a swag where we said, okay, for 2024, utilities were anticipating a 10% increase, and then wages and everything else was just going to be a 5% increase, and then a little bit less going on. But are those good for planning purposes? Are those good numbers? What would the police department do? Or what would the city do for things as far as what the costs would be? Because I'm assuming everybody's under the same umbrella when we're talking about like insurance and things like that, right? If you have health
Correct.
insurance, everybody in the city has the same
Yeah,
health
so
insurance company.
3% wage and benefits increase. Yeah, things like retirement or, come from WRS, come from the state. I know the city, as far as operational costs, we're looking at roughly between 3 and 5% increase of inflation, depending on the items, but I'm not really sure what some of the other departments are doing at the moment.
And it depends like on health insurance. I assume we're self-insured.
Yep.
And so it depends on what are you going to do with the plan too.
Like I said, we don't get those.
Yeah.
Those-
Do we self-insure workers' comp?
Yes.
Okay. So we don't have a mod rate or anything like
No.
that to deal with.
The,
I was gonna say from what we went over at our last meeting, which we had, for the budget to talk about as a group, and these numbers, some things have changed a bit. Workers' comp insurance is one of those. We had workers' comp at our last meeting, the 2023 budget, 1,627. Now we've got the 2023 budget as 1,206. And then we add those percentages to that. I don't know how that one changed.
Well, could it be because we had a good claim year? Like there just weren't as many claims?
So, but the 2023 budget, we're in the midst of
That's
that.
not actuals. This is just the budget. This is not the month by month one. We can talk about that too, but this is
something that you guys make up yourself.
Yes.
Okay, then
and the amended budget numbers come right off of whatever the final thing was for the city. Right. Yeah. And so this is something that Alan put together with those. So.
Just because you've never seen it doesn't mean we're not holding you responsible.
I don't know where it came from.
Okay, anyway, I just found a few things like that changed, like come on, don't quit on me now. The sundry contractor, we had $38,000 in there at our last board meeting, and now there's nothing in there at all. But the allocation, interdepartment change allocation pay costs went up substantially from where we were. And that's the last meeting, Jennifer, you weren't even there, were you? So this is all Carrie's fault.
It's not my fault. So
And,
I understand.
well, that interdepartment one went down because of the change in the account, right?
Right.
The contract now for the cleaning service, so that ended up someplace else.
Yeah, my understanding was
shifted.
that
No.
money would go to sundry contractors from the allocated pay costs. So that we would be paying less, because we started using a dust free.
Mhm.
And there was a budget amendment, I believe it was put through the common council.
Oh, that's what happened. Okay.
That was my understanding from Bob Tesh, that they put through a budget amendment and that it would, eventually the money would be starting to come out of sundry contractors instead of the allocated pay costs. That was my understanding.
do you know roughly when that would have happened between March and now? Or
When did Dust Free start? Early April?
Yeah.
I mean, we were without an evening custodian for quite a while, about 3 months. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And that's why I had a lower number on the one that I was working with, because I said, well, they've got to give us the dust-free thing.
So Dust Free is $31.52 a month.
Yeah. I guess about 38,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Another problem resolved. Good job.
Alan, can I talk about telephone?
Yes, please.
So that the telephone concern that you guys had, we are going to be switching to Lingo, which is going to cut our costs, not quite in half.
What is a lingo?
It's another phone.
A voice over internet?
This is just for the 911 call, 911 service that we have.
No.
So
Okay.
it's just one telephone line that we have to pay for that allows us to dial 911 without dialing 9911. So Lingo is going to drop our costs down to like $65.95, and I'm sure there'll be taxes on top of that. But we're paying 120 something with AT&T right now. So we're going to be switching over here in the next few days to Lingo.
Okay.
So, you're looking about a third, 33% decrease in the telephone. So that should make up the deficit. You had it highlighted, it was minus 28.9%.
Mhm.
I think that will make up that amount.
Okay.
So we should be good in telephone. Equipment rental too, because we got a new staff copier, which is less expensive than our old staff copier, we'll be in good shape in that category as well.
Okay. So Daniel, looking at the way we're kind of throwing this thing together, and Mike explained it, that we have percentages that we add to what the prior year budget was, and utilities at 10%. I'm not sure utilities are going to go up another 10%. For a while there, it looked like oil, natural gas,
Yeah.
drivers
Was it
of
19% next year or something like that? It was insane.
yeah, it was insane. But to go on top of that another 10%, I'm not sure if that's going to happen in 2024. But it's kind of way this was.
We anticipated that being conservative.
The other things, the 5%, we may not be right at 5% everywhere, but
Then even the inflation number might be a little bit high.
yeah.
Right.
But it was a ballpark. It was.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't know.
Yeah, future's the hardest thing to predict.
Another thing is our Milwaukee County Federated Library System charges. I know there's going to be increases. Steve already warned us and had gotten some of the numbers. They haven't gotten all of the numbers yet. So then the amount that we have, the
Do you know the account
36,250, oh, sorry, 5451, kind of towards the bottom of the first.
We got 41,253 in there, and you're thinking that's going to be higher than that?
I will know for sure within the next probably 2-3 weeks
Okay.
exactly what the number is going to be.
Okay.
Kind
Is
of
that Steve O's?
Steve Heiser. Steve O's is racing.
yeah.
Mhm. I know Steve. He's great.
on the revenue, the reciprocal borrowing. Like if I look at that for what's planned for 2023, and then I look at what we've already done. Now, we should have got the reciprocal borrowing, and I'm assuming that the reciprocal borrowing that we show in 2023, is that the actual stuff we're going to get in 2024? Which is why when I look at the month by month one that Alan puts together, there's nothing in there.
There's like a small amount. It's the West Dallas or the West Milwaukee check is in there, but the rest of it will be coming in February of 2024.
So where's the money that we got for 2022? That should show up. That should have showed up in February of here,
No.
but
It gets posted to the
Posted
previous.
back.
Yeah.
So
it
we
gets
get the
posted
money
there.
in 2024, it posted back into 2023, and that's when we'll know what we have. That's something else that.
See, that's the hard thing about this then
Yeah.
is that you got a big chunk of money that's missing. But-
Well, that's why we put a ballpark in there of 58, but that's
But it's
just
supposed to be going down on a regular basis, over the years.
Yes
right?
and no. Yes and no. The pot that we share has gotten larger because of those increases that the legislature has given the library systems. So library systems are getting more money.
Okay.
And because we share that fixed 35% of the pot, that pot got bigger. Therefore, payment, does that make sense? The pot's bigger, so the payments got bigger to the libraries.
Okay.
But I mean, this
Because
is.
that's a different conversation. Just anticipated that going forward, we were going to see pretty much a steady decrease in what we're going to get for reciprocal borrowing, and now we're saying that we're expecting that number is going to be about that.
But it's hard to know because things will impact those numbers. As you know, the new Oak Creek, it's not new anymore. The Oak Creek Library,
Mm-hmm.
those kinds of things do affect that number. How many people are traveling here with gas going up? Maybe less people from Milwaukee are coming down all the way down to Franklin.
What's West Milwaukee's status in the libraries?
They don't have a library,
Right.
so they pay all the libraries for actual use of.
Okay,
So the system keeps track of how many residents West Milwaukee use the libraries, and then we get a check for it in February.
yeah, I was wondering if it was maybe like the schools where they did it jointly with West Dallas or something like that, but okay.
It's a little bit different.
We were talking about that interdepartment charge, the allocation cost. Danielle, do you know if there's a spreadsheet calculation, something that shows here's what you're being charged and why? Like 10% of this guy is labor and 15% of who knows what else, and
60.
5560, correct?
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Yeah, Tom has that all.
Have you
It would
ever
just be a
seen?
nice note that says, okay, here's what it is. So if something changes, then it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Tom has sent that to me before. I've requested it from Tom, like how much was Ryan, how much was Weekend Bob. We call him Weekend Bob because we have Bob Tesh, so we call him Weekend Bob.
His
And
mother
exactly
called
how
it
much.
weekend. That's
Yeah, I know.
crazy.
And anything you guys want to see, obviously, you can request it.
Yeah,
from
I
us,
can get
too.
it
Yeah.
from Bob. I mean, from Tom.
Even if you've got an old one, I'd be interested in just looking at it.
I'm sure I have it because I have all my emails, so I could
Well,
forward
and
it to you.
Tom should have the personnel portion done by July 31st, and so I can have him make sure to get that out as well.
Okay.
Which will be the numbers for 24.
And then, Danielle, how familiar are you with the idea of us bringing our fund balance down? That there's kind of a push for that. And how,
What do you?
well, we've got what is it, $600,000 fund balance?
No, it's down now. I'm gonna say it's
Yeah.
like 450.
450, 408?
I mean, we have done a bang up job of bringing it down,
Okay.
But
but it had.
But
the target was 100,000 eventually.
no lower than,
That's a minimum.
It was like it was kind of like if it ever goes below 100,000, then we have to make up the amount to bring it up to 100,000. So we don't want to go below.
no, I would,
Yeah. It got a little.
that's not a bad thing. Then we've got a cushion in there for when something goes wrong and we got to replace something. But how are we doing that? How do we budget? Because that has to be brought down through the capital outlays area. How do we budget to spend something out of fund balance? Or is it just,
That's kind of how we have been doing.
Yeah, you just increase in
Mhm.
the areas.
so you're talking about when we look at the capital budget for 2024, computers for 10,000, RFID security system 30,000. Those two as an example would bring it down $40,000 if we ran those against fund balance.
Correct.
But if we run them against fund balance, do they show up in our financials?
They
Or do they just come off fund balance?
in the 5,800.
Right.
But yeah.
No,
So, I mean, you'll just slowly see your ending fund balance decrease
as we have more expenditures than,
than revenues.
and as long as the capital outlays area is an amount that's greater than that, we're golden.
Correct.
Okay.
So like the Building and Grounds Committee will be meeting next week. And we're gonna look over that capital improvement list
Okay.
one final time before I have to get all of them in. Because one thing that, well, the air chiller's in there
Yep.
already. And security system for next year, but I'm gonna ask them to kind of rank moving forward priorities because our carpet is really bad.
And you
So
had that out always.
I had that out, I think, 25.
Mhm.
So I'll let building and grounds
Yeah.
weigh in on that.
So a point of discussion as I was going through this and I'm looking at things and understanding that if everything was going to work exactly the way we have it on the spreadsheet, right, we're going to be short money at the end of the year. Okay. Should things like furniture, if we're going to be doing things like that, what do we want to go to the foundation for fundraising for things?
They have given us furniture the last 2 out of 3 years. Furniture for the study rooms
Mm-hmm.
and then new furniture for the patio.
Yep.
Because
Because the numbers that we see for 2023 going out are small.
you mean the furniture?
Yep.
Because a lot of it's been replaced. I mean, we're in pretty good shape.
It would just be a good conversation to have if we were going to be talking to the foundation. These are the types of things that the library could use help with. So things like that.
And we do. We have those conversations at our meetings,
Mhm.
almost every meeting.
Yeah.
And we,
Almost to the point where we'd like to lean on them to say, okay, when we need new furniture, we're going to come to you and say, okay, what types of things can you do from a fundraising standpoint?
they're awesome. You know, they're great at getting us whatever we want.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how much, you know.
Yeah. A little bit of an aside too is that, and we talked about this right already a few years ago when we started putting things together where you can regularly donate to the foundation.
Right.
Right.
And-
And it would be good to know like how many people are actually doing that. And a couple times during the year, kind of like other nonprofits do, let's go out to the community and say, you know, library's going to be needing, you enjoy the library's going to be doing things in here. We're looking for donations, whether it's one time or go ahead and sign up so that it's so much a month so we can accumulate a pool of money.
And they do that. Yeah, I send out the letter and I mention donating to the library, and then I also mention sustained giving.
It would be good to know how much, what actual numbers are, maybe the next board meeting, under the foundation. How much does the library have in sustaining members that are donating? Like how much money is coming in on a monthly basis for that type of thing?
Not a ton.
What's the foundation?
So the foundation is a separate entity from the library that basically raises funds to support the library.
And it's not in the budget?
It is not in the budget
Okay.
because it's its own separate
Tax exempt corporation.
tax exempt. So they do the fundraising and the
Do you have a position like ex officio or anything like that with the foundation?
Me?
Yeah, as library director? No. Do you attend the meetings? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
and we have a library board representative, Annie,
Mhm.
at all the meetings. So Annie can be the board's voice as well. Or- Next year, I was kind of in talking with staff. We were kind of looking at programming as a want
Mm-hmm.
because it's so expensive.
You don't do any programming here, do you?
Do lots of.
Oh, you do? Okay. Then where
Hundreds.
would you put that in the budget?
Well, because the librarians do a lot of it. Well, we put it in Fund 16. So if you look in Fund 16 under sundry contractors,
Okay,
that
so
would be the amount that we pay performers.
Okay.
Supplies in Fund 16 is where we pay this.
Is Fund 16 a lot of your programming?
It
type?
is, yeah. So like all the fines and fees that we take in go to support our programming here.
And that was another question long term about phasing out 16 as a separate. As separate.
I had a conversation with Peggy about the possibility of doing that.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what state statutes there
But
are
then-
regarding.
Yeah, she said we could make Fund 16 more of a donations account and put all operations in Fund 15 if we wanted to do that.
And I can speak just because I came from the village of Waterford. And that's typically what they did. They had a full operations account, and then did all of their programming out of their donations account. So it was only donations coming in. There was no fines. There was no
So all the fines,
Rentals-
all the fines went into operations.
operations. And
Yeah,
the donations only supported the programming.
Okay.
it's kind of like, if you don't get the donations,
Correct.
you can't have the programming.
Yeah.
Programming is huge here. It's huge.
So just another way to look at it.
But that'd be like a policy determination. Okay.
Sounds a little scary. Because programming is so
Correct. And if the
large.
donations don't come in.
You don't want to be managing that risk.
Yeah.
Does
It's
the library have any investment accounts?
Yep.
Is that something?
through the city.
Okay, so then I
Yeah,
can-
so, and it's,
Just
they've been
nothing
doing
separate that
very
you
well
handle?
this year.
No. Yeah, it's not handled through the city.
Have their investments, Joe.
We have some through. Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
Then it's not
American
that important.
Deposit Management. I know that LGIP.
But where do they have it? In
Oh, the investment.
stocks and CD? Come on now.
Should know.
Brand new. You're-
3 weeks. I'm still trying to figure it out.
How many weeks?
3.
3, and you don't know that?
And I don't have the whole ins and outs yet.
And here she is.
Yeah.
Can do
I'm
a lot.
trying.
I've been on the board for 3 years, and there are things I don't know.
Don't scare me like that.
I'm used to being told, just shut up, be quiet. So, I'm married, no problem.
One thing looking ahead, we've got, with the percentage increase that we have budgeted for next year, it's a large amount. And from what I saw in BSNA, it's larger than what the city has forecasted.
I believe we threw in because I have Paul Rotzenberg. He's been coming in and mentoring me a few hours a week. And as we started working through the budget process, we just threw in I believe it was 2.5% increase across the board as a forecast to kind of get going on the revenue aspect of the budget. So you'll see some differences between what the departments are requesting versus what we've thrown in there.
Yeah.
Well, I had 5% in there because not only were we anticipating the 2.5%, 3% kind of increase, but didn't we have some catch-up stuff that we were doing? And isn't that still ongoing?
Catch up.
Catch up in pay because we were behind. Somebody did an analysis and said, you should be making 20% more than.
Okay, so the class and comp study that was done in 2015, I believe it was 2015.
It was, yeah.
So what happened was they did the class and comp study, and I don't think anybody was prepared for how underpaid the library employees were compared to the comparable communities.
Sherry
And
sitting
so, yeah, she knows all of this. She is well aware of all of this. And so what, Rachel, who was the director at the time, went to the Common Council and asked to be made whole,
Okay.
and they didn't. So the money for all those raises came out of our library budget. And we've been kind of sinking ever since because the raises that we give are greater than our increase.
So where does that overage come from?
Operations.
Okay.
And it's made it hard. to
Do you
operate a
know when
library.
you might be at a point where you're not?
Never.
Okay.
Never is a
Might be-
long, long time.
Might be something I have to look into.
And
You're saying that you are so far underpaid that
no,
giving
no, no, no,
oh.
no, I'm not, oh, no.
Uh,
I'm talking about
the library.
All the people that.
all the people that
get
work here,
paid, right.
all the people that work here.
Right.
And I'm not saying we're underpaid, but what happened was we were underpaid. So when they brought us up and they didn't bring us up to where we should be. That's why we get the progress to market increases every year.
Right.
Just bringing us up to where they brought us up was like a $50,000 hit to the library
Okay.
in salary increases. And we've never really recovered from that.
They can't make you whole by going back, 20 years.
No.
Or anything, but
But if they could help,
isn't that part of what they're doing? That's why I was trying to say that
Yeah.
wages, I've got 5% here, although the city's going to say 2.5% to 3%, but because of this other increase that you're going to get, we're putting 5% through, and that's probably reasonably close. Yes, no?
So is this number that you have in here as far as the revenue, general property tax, that's not 5% increase, is it?
No.
But that's where we're getting our pay from,
Nope.
right? That's the big number.
Right. But that's where we get into reducing fund balance, because we can't use fund balance for these wage increases.
right,
But we take the money from the city and it goes against the wage increases first, and then it goes against retirement and equipment maintenance and postage.
right.
And then you get down to, this furniture fixture, these capital outlays, you're not going to get all that money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it comes out of fund balance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how our fund balance is coming down, because we're not getting the reimbursement from the city for all these wage increases that we're actually putting through. But we're forecasting them here, and that's why we've got 5% going through. As people are getting the additional amount of increases to get them closer to the market value.
So just for grins, and there isn't any like hard and fast number, but I was just trying to see, okay, libraries in general, is there like a rule of thumb for how much of your revenue should be staffing?
Meaning your total budget?
Yep.
I don't think there's a rule of thumb. It's how much are you doing in programming? How big is your building?
How much is
but
your
I'm just saying, if I'm just talking about staff, if I'm just talking about salaries and then all basically compensation, we're anywhere from 71 to 74% of our budget.
Right.
It's just that.
I've heard 60 to 70 is a
I was gonna say
ballpark.
that's the gross.
So we're on the top end. We're on the top end and getting bigger. So the only way you fix that is you get more revenue.
And how do we get more revenue?
Is that 60% for Wisconsin, across the nation?
Oh, that would be just like general for libraries. General for libraries.
Because we're service oriented. We are going to have we're going to have more personnel costs than other city departments because we're
Sure, it's the school district, school board. They're about 70 to 80%.
they're even
It's
higher.
way-
Yes.
yeah.
But they don't have to take care of the building stuff. They don't have a collection. So
We don't, but the schools do.
no.
Yeah.
Otherwise you wouldn't be at 70 or 80% of the budget. If that's all in salaries and compensation and things like that.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that we're kind of going in the wrong direction if the percentage of the amount of money that we have to spend to run the library is the amount that goes for staffing is getting bigger. The percentage is getting bigger. And, it should be around a particular number. So going forward, revenues to come in should be there to help out with that.
Yeah.
What happens when the fund balance is gone? You want to have the argument now about how, okay, if we're looking at right now we're at 71%. If we look at the number for 2027, we're going to be at like 74% of the revenue that we get, and that means that the rate of the salaries and the benefits is going up faster than the money that we're being given.
Yep.
And that ain't going to change. right?
Right.
Unless,
And that's why I
there's
said
some
I don't,
number.
that's when I said never. That's exactly what I was talking
That's the never you were talking.
That's the never, Mike's never is what, that
Yeah.
it's just a,
No, it doesn't, I mean, and unless you're looking at the numbers like that and going, okay. At some point, it no longer becomes a good library
Your
because,
operations are gonna be
yeah,
less for
yeah.
services and more for employees.
yeah, less books and materials, the
Correct.
things that people come in looking for.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So that's another reason to talk about, how can the foundation help out with things like programming or other things to kind of give us a little bit more breathing space.
And I truly understand what you're saying, but if we get right down to nuts and bolts, this is part of the city of Franklin, the library.
Mhm.
So we are really the responsibility of the city of Franklin to pay all that needs to be paid to have this library function the way it's functioning.
Right.
We shouldn't have a foundation. Foundation, it should be gravy on top of that.
which is what they view themselves. They view themselves as the gravy.
Yeah. And the city has to step up to have a top-notch library like we do. Tell them.
Get right on.
Yeah. And it's been nice knowing
I'm
you.
your advocate.
But that was the first big ask. Right? It's already almost 3:00, so it's been pretty easy on you.
Yeah. We understand it isn't that easy.
We do. And we like to be, I mean, it's in our strategic plan. We want to be responsible with the funds that are given us. And we do look for cost savings wherever we can. Phone, even if they're little.
Yeah.
Little.
Oh, yeah.
Was that from the ALA or I can't remember what the source was, but just this thing about what size staff you should have or a guideline for that?
It's kind of changed. It's so when they redid the standards a few years ago, it changed. So that's not a chart like it used to be. You're in a community this size, you should have this many books, this many magazines, this many this many staff,
Yeah.
FTEs. It's changed to more of a sliding scale.
Okay.
But definitely something to keep in mind and look at.
At least the last time we went over that, our staff was relatively small compared to the size of the community when that was more specifically
And it
connected.
depends on the community you look at
Sure.
too. I mean, if you're looking at Oak Creek, I think their staff is smaller, although their circulation is also quite a bit less. So, but if you look at Menominee Falls, their circulation is less than ours, and they've got twice the amount of FTEs we have. 2 times. And they still tell me they have a hard time finding how to do things. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
And it's on
Mary's just
record.
being bum over there.
I don't have anything to say. Yeah, I agree with Jennifer.
Yeah.
We
She's
got-
my mini-me.
We got good staff.
What?
We have good staff.
We have excellent staff. Yeah.
They get things done.
That doesn't mean that we couldn't use Brown.
Right. And, we don't want to burn out our staff either.
Right.
So looking for new ways to do things to ease their workloads, that's also something that we do. There's only so far, there's only so much you can do.
As we're coming into the last 10 minutes of the meeting, because we will end on time, item C was review and discussion of the 24th through 26th budget projection, including capital operations and expenditures. I don't think we've necessarily covered that yet we've concentrated on just 2024. And recommendations regarding the 2024 budget department request to Franklin Public Library Board of Trustees.
haven't really talked about any major changes. Don't
No.
really see too much
No.
going on.
I mean, like I said in our last meeting, I pretty much am gonna plug your numbers in. That's what I'm gonna do. And then I'm gonna let the Building and Grounds Committee weigh in on the, like I said, ranking the capital
Right. What needs to be done.
request, what needs to be done. And that's it. You guys, you tell me what to do and I'm just gonna plug it in.
One thing that I did, figuring when we looked at the month by month for 2023 that you put together.
Mhm.
Okay, so we got through May, so we're at 5/12 of the year. And for things like personnel, we're 5/12 of the year, we should have been at 365,000, and we're only at 324,000. Right, so in some places, we're like money ahead, even like the electricity. We should be at like 29,000 and we're only spending 21,000, right? So there's a couple of big numbers in here where we're under. So we may end up being in a little bit better shape.
Electricity is a little deceiving though, because we might have been a month behind.
Yeah.
It's,
We're usually a month behind.
we're usually a month behind. So instead of 5/12 of the year, electricity is probably 4/12. But you're looking at the number is probably.
Well,
5/12
there's
of the year.
5/12 worth of data in here.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So from that standpoint,
Because I keep records on all our electric bills year over year.
Mhm.
And like we're on my spreadsheet, we're actually over a little bit on,
I think the point is that looking to 2024, if for things like personnel, we're like almost 10% under what we've got budgeted for 5/12 through the year.
couple of reasons. We had our part-time reference librarian hasn't been working all the hours she could be, and she will be working that next year. And we had a staff member, a full-time librarian take medical leave, so she wasn't getting paid. So these numbers this year are quite reflective of what they should be. But we do have the intern. Remember, we increased the intern hours.
Mhm.
So that will cut into it a little bit.
This is supposed to be good news.
I'm just saying, don't dance. Don't dance. Because this is not a typical, this isn't typical.
You're raining on my parade.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, sometimes there are just reasons why we look so good, and they're not necessarily permanent.
It's not a permanent thing.
Oh, no. I'm just saying that, we could, then if next year's numbers are based off of what we would expect for this year, that's fine. It's just that we may not have to worry about doing some things with money at the end of the year that we might have had to if this trend continues with some of these bigger
Yeah.
budget items.
Yeah.
And I just want to say this respectfully is that as you try and spend down your fund balance and making larger purchases, just remember that that's not forever as well. So once you get to that baseline of where you want to be,
Yep.
then you have to remind yourself, okay, some of those things that we've been putting more money into, we now have to draw that back because our fund balance is at.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the reasons why we're having this. What does the city pay? What do we pay? Because there were some very, very big ticket items that, oh crap, what are we going to do? Because this is.
And I want to keep you guys informed too. Like I said, as new as I am to this, I just want to make sure I'm understanding of everything.
Yeah.
For sure.
So.
No, because it's like you should never get dependent on your fund balance. And that's why it should be used for those capital things. I'm even hesitant to use it for books. Because we need our materials, because we need that. That's actually more, to me, not gravy. You know what I mean?
It's
Right.
not really capital outlay. It's
Yeah.
what we use to stay in business. So to speak.
Right. And that's, I guess, a little bit of what confused me. So your library materials out of Fund 15, that's what you use to purchase all of your books, your AV materials. because again, where I come from in Waterford, I mean, that was just under a supplies operational line item, and everything was divvied out pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't under one. We had 8 or 10 different
Yeah.
budget line items to really capture if we're spending it on young children, juveniles, adults, and then periodicals, all that kind of stuff. So to have that under a capital line item, like I said, that confused me.
Yeah.
And that to me, again, coming from a way smaller municipality, that number actually seems very, very small compared to what our library was spending
On materials.
in materials.
We do not have a huge materials budget. Now, periodicals come out of the subscriptions. So I don't know if,
Okay, but even if you
Waterford.
take that out, that's
yeah. I know, we do not
is
have
all
a
your
large-
is more of your funding or not funding, more of your checkouts and all of that online. Is that why you don't spend that much in books, or
No, just because that's all we have.
right?
When you pay your people and you pay your building expenses,
I was just
what do I have
confused.
left?
It threw me off.
Yeah, my husband has a material, he's the director of TOSA.
Okay.
So it's a much larger library. It's like the 5th highest ranking library in the state. It's 2.5 times our budget. So yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw that in capital too, and I thought of it as this is
Place to put it, Paul might be able to shed some light on why it's
Yeah.
there. I think Peggy questioned it too. So. And I feel like our maintenance costs, system maintenance and building maintenance. Building maintenance is probably okay, but for example, my systems building maintenance costs are really going up because if I have to add Freon, refrigerant to not me personally, but we have to have somebody do it. It's like $200 a pound for refrigerant for our old 20 plus year AC unit.
is that the chiller
Mm-hmm.
that's going?
And our compressors hold, I don't know, 100 to 200 pounds of refrigerant. So hopefully we never have to empty the whole thing. Because that'd be like, oh.
Yeah.
So you guys will be seeing a bill the next library board meeting for some refrigerant. Yeah.
So this
Is it?
not sorry. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions regarding this capital information. So I see that it looks like everything that was requested was approved in 23. So the library security system, is that something you guys are anticipating still working on in 23, or is it already done?
It's being done right now.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then how about the computer replacement?
That's pretty much done.
And then you have 9,000 for just, it says anticipated building repairs.
That's because IRS.
That what that was for?
Yeah. So that was for the repairs that IRS was recommending, but I don't think they've done any in 23. But you said you just signed
Correct, yeah.
but is
So-
that for 2024 or is that for
No, it's for 23.
this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually have that contract on my desk right now.
Does it specify what portion of it is library?
I can send
Okay.
that to you.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, when I get
Yeah,
back, I'll
that'd be
send that to
great.
you.
Okay.
And then Furniture replacement, you guys have 10,000.
That's done.
Okay. So I'm assuming the library materials you're
Working
on, and then the asphalt stuff, which
And concrete.
Yep.
So yeah, for this year, we're pretty good.
And then do you guys replace computers and software every year?
We have we have like certain number that we replace.
Oh, okay, so it's on a rotating schedule.
Yeah. And again, we're in pretty good shape.
Okay. That's all that I had, and I'll just send that to you when we get back.
Perfect.
Okay.
Did we have anything else?
Nothing for me.
Adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Oh, you had something?
Do we want to talk about the recommendation? So are we just recommending pretty much what we have in this document, move forward with?
We don't have any other better numbers.
Yeah. There might be a little bit of change once I meet with the building and grounds committee, but we'll bring that to the library board meeting.
Right.
Okay, I'm done.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned at
Danielle, good meeting you.
3:03.